If someone had told me a year ago that my best friend would be the one to betray me, I would have laughed in their face. Sam and I had been inseparable since college. We had been through everything together: breakups, family drama, bad haircuts. Even at one time we got matching tattoos after one too many drinks. She was more than a friend. She was my sister. People always told me how lucky I was to have such a close friendship. Not many people could say they had the same best friend for over 10 years. And they were right. Sam knew everything about me. My fears, my dreams, the way I like my coffee. And I thought I knew everything about her too. But the worst betrayals come from the people you trust the most. It all started on an ordinary Saturday. Jack, my boyfriend, was running late for our dinner date. So I decided to kill time by scrolling through Instagram. That's when I saw it. A picture on Sam's story. At first, nothing seemed off. Just a simple mirror selfie of her at some fancy restaurant. She looked great, as usual. Red lipstick, perfect curls, a confident smile. But something in the reflection caught my eye. A blurry figure at the table behind her. A man who looked exactly like Jack. A strange feeling settled in my stomach. It couldn't be him. Jack had told me he was stuck in traffic. Maybe it was just someone who looked like him. I zoomed in, trying to get a better look. The shape of his shoulders, the way he leaned slightly to the left when he sat, even the dark blue jacket he was wearing. It all matched. My heart started pounding. No, there had to be an explanation. Maybe he had stopped somewhere to eat while waiting for traffic to clear. But why wouldn't he tell me? And why was he in the same restaurant as Sam? I shook my head. I was being paranoid. I decided to text her. I kept it casual, asking about the fancy restaurant and who she was with. She replied quickly, saying it was just a work thing. Since when did Sam have work things on Saturdays? She was a freelance designer, and most of her clients were online. She never had in-person meetings unless it was something big. The uneasy feeling in my stomach grew stronger. I put my phone down and glanced at the time. Jack was already 30 minutes late. I texted him, asking if he was still stuck in traffic. No response. Another 10 minutes passed. I texted again. Nothing. I stared at my phone, my fingers tightening around it. My mind raced with possibilities. I told myself I was overthinking. But deep down I knew. This was the moment everything changed. And I had no idea what was coming next. I sat there, staring at my phone, waiting for a response that never came. The seconds stretched into minutes, and with every passing moment, the uneasy feeling in my chest grew stronger. Jack was never the type to ignore my messages, especially when he knew I was waiting for him. I checked our last conversation 2 hours ago. He had told me he was on his way. I couldn't shake the image from Sam's Instagram story. The blurry figure, the familiar way he sat, the same damn blue jacket. My mind was running in circles, trying to make sense of it all. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it was just some guy who happened to look like him, wearing the exact same thing. But no matter how hard I tried to convince myself, my gut told me otherwise. I needed proof. Without thinking, I grabbed my keys and jacket and walked out the door. If Jack wasn't answering his phone, I'd find him myself. The restaurant in Sam's photo wasn't far, 15 minutes away at most. My hands tightened around the steering wheel as I drove, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. The restaurant was packed when I arrived. A sleek, modern place with dim lighting and overpriced cocktails. I stepped inside, scanning the room, searching for any sign of him. My stomach twisted as I spotted the table from the photo. My breath caught in my throat. Jack was there, sitting across from Sam. I felt frozen in place, unable to move, unable to breathe. It wasn't just my imagination. It wasn't a misunderstanding. He was here, with her, and they looked comfortable. Too comfortable. Jack was leaning in, speaking in a low voice. Sam was laughing, her fingers resting lightly on the edge of her wine glass. I watched as he reached across the table, brushing his hand against hers for just a second before she pulled away. It was quick, subtle, something no one else would have noticed. But I did. A rush of emotions hit me all at once. Anger, disbelief, betrayal. My best friend and my boyfriend. Sitting there, drinking, laughing, touching, like it was the most normal thing in the world. like I didn't exist. My legs moved before my brain could catch up. I marched toward them, my heels clicking against the floor, my vision blurring with fury. Jack noticed me first. His eyes widened, his body stiffened. Sam turned, and the color drained from her face. I didn't give them time to speak. "So this is why you couldn't answer your phone." My voice came out sharp, loud enough for a few nearby tables to turn their heads. Jack opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Sam looked down at the table, as if she could avoid the weight of my stare. "What the hell is this?" I demanded, my voice shaking. Sam finally looked up. "It's not what you think." A humorless laugh escaped my lips. "Oh, really?" Because from where I'm standing, it looks like my best friend and my boyfriend are sneaking around behind my back. Jack stood up, his hands raised slightly, like he was trying to calm me down. "Listen, I was going to tell you." When? I cut him off. Before or after dessert? People were watching now. I could feel the weight of their stares, hear the murmurs. I didn't care. Let them see. Let them hear. I wanted them to know exactly what kind of people sat at this table. Sam reached for my arm, her voice softer now. "Please just let me explain." I yanked my arm away like her touch burned me. "Explain what, Sam? That you're a liar? A backstabbing? Two-faced?" My voice cracked, and I hated it. I hated that, even now, even with all of this in front of me. A part of me still wanted her to prove me wrong. Jack exhaled sharply, rubbing a hand over his face. "It's not like that." "Then tell me, what exactly is it like?" Silence. I shook my head, stepping back, my chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. "You know what? I don't even need to hear it." I turned to Sam, my voice lowering, but still filled with venom. "I hope it was worth it." Without another word, I spun on my heel and walked away. I didn't cry. Not yet. I didn't remember much of the drive home. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My head was spinning, my heart still racing. The betrayal sat heavy in my chest, suffocating. Jack and Sam, my boyfriend and my best friend. I replayed the scene over and over in my mind. The way they sat together, the way they laughed, the way Jack touched her hand. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break something. But more than anything, I wanted answers. My phone buzzed in the passenger seat. I glanced at the screen. Jack. I ignored it. A few seconds later, another notification. This time, a message from Sam. "Please let me explain. Just talk to me." I gritted my teeth, gripping the wheel even harder. Explain. Explain what? That she had been lying to me for who knows how long. That my relationship, my friendship, was a joke. I wasn't ready to hear whatever excuse she had. When I got home, I threw my keys onto the counter and sank onto the couch, my body still vibrating with anger. I needed to calm down, but I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them. My phone buzzed again. Jack. Then again. Sam. I groaned, snatching it up and typing furiously. "Leave me alone. Both of you." A few seconds later, the typing bubbles appeared under Sam's name. I waited, my heart pounding. Then her message came through. "Please, just let me talk to you. I swear it's not what you think." Not what I think. Was she serious? I let out a bitter laugh. They always say that. Every cheater, every liar, they always act like the person they hurt just doesn't understand. Another message. "I'm coming over. I need to tell you the truth." I shot up from the couch. "No, don't." But it was too late. 15 minutes later, there was a knock at my door. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let her stand out there all night. But another part, one I hated, needed to hear what she had to say. I needed to know. I opened the door. Sam stood there, her eyes red and puffy, like she had been crying. Good. At least she had the decency to feel guilty. She stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. I crossed my arms, refusing to let my guard down. "Say whatever it is you came to say, and then leave." She swallowed hard, looking down at her hands. "I'm sorry." I scoffed. "That's it?" "No," she whispered. "There's more." She took a deep breath, her fingers trembling. And then, finally, she looked me in the eyes. "I didn't betray you. At least, not in the way you think. My stomach twisted. Then explain. She hesitated, like she was trying to find the right words. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, Jack and I weren't on a date. I narrowed my eyes. Then what the hell were you doing? She swallowed again. I was confronting him. My breath caught in my throat. Confronting him about what? A pause. Then finally she said it. Because he's been lying to both of us. I stared at her, my mind racing to keep up with her words. Lying to both of us. My pulse pounded in my ears. I wanted to believe she was just scrambling for an excuse. But something in her face told me she was serious. I folded my arms, trying to steady myself. What do you mean, lying to both of us? Sam took a shaky breath. Jack has been cheating, but not with me. The room seemed to tilt for a second. I gripped the back of the couch, steadying myself. You're lying. I'm not, she said quickly. That's why I met him tonight. To make him confess. I was trying to protect you. A bitter laugh escaped me. Protect me? By sneaking around with my boyfriend? Do you have any idea how that looked? She winced. I know, and I should have told you sooner. But I needed to be sure before I said anything. I shook my head, still not fully processing. Sure about what? Sam hesitated, then pulled out her phone. I found messages. Weeks ago. I wasn't looking for them, I swear. But Jack was being weird, and I got suspicious. My chest tightened as she scrolled, then turned the screen toward me. I barely breathed as I read the texts. My name wasn't in them, but I didn't need it to be. The messages were intimate, flirty, way too comfortable. And the worst part? They weren't with some random stranger. They were with a girl we both knew. Rachel. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. Rachel wasn't some distant acquaintance. She was part of our group. She had been at my birthday party. She had hugged me, laughed with me, acted like my friend. Jack had always been close with her, but I never thought twice about it. I trusted him. I trusted her. My voice came out hoarse. How long? Sam hesitated. At least a couple of months. Maybe longer. I sank onto the couch. My legs too weak to hold me up. Why didn't you tell me? I wanted to, she said, sitting beside me. But I didn't have proof at first. I overheard something, but it wasn't enough. Then I found the messages, and I knew I had to confront him first. I wanted to hear him admit it before I dropped this on you. I ran a shaky hand through my hair. My thoughts were a mess. I had spent the last few hours convinced that Sam had stabbed me in the back, only to find out she had been trying to catch the real traitor. I looked at her, emotions swirling. Anger, sadness, guilt. I had been so ready to hate her. But the truth was even worse. Jack had played us both, and I wasn't going to let him get away with it. The anger that had been boiling inside me all night shifted into something sharper, colder. It was no longer just about betrayal. It was about revenge. I had spent hours hating Sam, blaming her, only to find out she had been trying to protect me. Meanwhile, Jack had been sneaking around with Rachel for months, laughing behind my back, acting like the perfect boyfriend while playing me for a fool. I stood up, pacing the room. Does he know you found these? I gestured at Sam's phone. She shook her head. No. I didn't want to tip him off before I confronted him. That explained why he had been blowing up my phone earlier. He probably assumed she had told me everything. I exhaled slowly, forcing my voice to stay even. Did he admit it? Sam hesitated, then sighed. Not directly, but when I pressed him about Rachel, he got defensive. He kept trying to change the subject, saying it wasn't what I thought. The way he reacted, it was obvious. I nodded, my mind racing. Confronting him head-on would be pointless. He would just lie, twist the truth, gaslight me into doubting everything. No, if I wanted to take him down, I needed something undeniable. A plan started forming in my head. I turned to Sam. Do you still have access to those messages? She gave me a wary look. Yeah. Why? I need screenshots. All of them. She hesitated for a second, then nodded and started scrolling. As she sent them to me, a dark satisfaction settled in my chest. Jack had underestimated me. He had thought he could get away with this, that I would never find out. But he was about to learn exactly what happened when you crossed me. I stared at the messages as they came through. They were worse than I expected. Jack wasn't just flirting. He was talking about meeting up, making excuses to see Rachel behind my back. There was even a message where he complained about me, calling me clingy and too emotional. I felt sick. Sam must have noticed my expression because she put a hand on my arm. I'm so sorry. I know this hurts. I swallowed hard, pushing past the pain. I couldn't afford to break down now. I'm fine. It was a lie. But I didn't have time to fall apart. Not yet. I glanced at Sam. Do you still talk to Rachel? She frowned. Not really. But we're still in the group chat. Perfect. I grabbed my phone and opened the chat where Jack, Rachel, Sam, and a few others used to make plans. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I could just send the screenshots, expose them both in front of everyone. But that felt too easy. No. I wanted to catch him in real time. Make him panic. Make him squirm. A slow smile spread across my face as I started typing. Jack, I need to talk to you. Right now. A few seconds later, the typing bubbles appeared. Jack, what's wrong? I could almost hear the nervousness in his voice. Me. Just come over. It's important. He hesitated. Then be there in 15. I turned to Sam. You staying? She nodded without hesitation. I want to see him try to lie his way out of this. I smirked. Good. Let's make this fun. 15 minutes felt like an eternity. I sat on the couch, my legs bouncing restlessly, my mind cycling through all the ways this could go. Sam was beside me, arms crossed, her expression unreadable. She was pissed, but I could tell she was waiting to see how I would handle this. Finally, headlights flashed through the window. A car door slammed. Footsteps. Then a knock. I exhaled, forcing my voice to stay steady. Come in. The door opened, and Jack stepped inside, his eyes darting between me and Sam. He looked tense, like he already knew something was off. His hair was a mess, like he had been running his hands through it, and his shirt was wrinkled. Hey, he said cautiously. What's going on? I leaned back, feigning calm. Sit. His eyes flicked to Sam again, then back to me. He hesitated before lowering himself onto the chair across from us. You're freaking me out a little. Did something happen? I tilted my head. You tell me. His brows furrowed. What? I pulled out my phone and opened the messages Sam had sent me. I didn't shove them in his face. I just held my phone loosely in my hand, watching him, letting him wonder, letting him sweat. His Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed. Why are you looking at me like that? Sam exhaled sharply, shaking her head. Cut the act, Jack. His gaze snapped to her. Excuse me. I finally sat forward, resting my elbows on my knees. Tell me, Jack, how long have you been sleeping with Rachel? His entire body went rigid. For a split second, I saw the panic in his eyes before he masked it with confusion. He let out a dry laugh, shaking his head. Are you serious? What kind of? I tossed my phone onto the table. The screen was still on, the messages clear. Jack froze. His eyes flicked to the phone, then back to me. I could see his brain working, scrambling for a way out. I waited. Sam crossed her arms. Go on. Tell her it's not what it looks like. Jack let out a slow breath, running a hand down his face. I can explain. I arched a brow. Really? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks pretty straightforward. You and Rachel. Months of lying to my face, complaining about me to her like I'm some burden. So please explain. Jack's jaw tensed. It wasn't like that. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Oh, then how was it? He sighed, looking genuinely frustrated, like I was the one being unreasonable. It was stupid, okay? It was just flirting at first. I didn't mean for it to turn into anything. Sam scoffed. Oh, so it just accidentally turned into an affair. Jack shot her a glare, but I spoke before he could respond. And you let me sit here thinking Sam was the problem. You made me feel crazy, paranoid, all while you were sneaking around with her. His lips pressed into a thin line. I didn't want to hurt you. Something inside me snapped. I shot up from my seat. Are you serious right now? You didn't want to hurt me? Do you have any idea what the last few hours have been like for me? thinking my best friend betrayed me, second-guessing everything, and the whole time, you were the one lying. Jack stood too, his hands going to his hips. What was I supposed to do? Just come clean and ruin everything? I let out a sharp breath. You already ruined everything. His face twisted, like he wanted to argue, but he couldn't. He knew he had lost. Sam leaned forward, her voice cold. Does Rachel know you're here right now? Jack hesitated. That was all I needed. I nodded, more to myself than to him. Get out. His head snapped up. Wait. I said get out. For a moment, he just stood there, like he thought he could fix this, like there was something left to save. But there wasn't. Without another word, he grabbed his keys and walked out. The door clicked shut behind him, and the silence that followed felt deafening. Sam let out a long breath. Well, that was satisfying. I didn't answer. I just stared at the door, feeling the weight of everything settle onto my chest. It was over, but somehow, I didn't feel relieved. The silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. I should have felt relief, maybe even a sense of victory. Jack was gone. The truth was out. But all I felt was a hollow, aching emptiness. Sam shifted beside me, breaking the quiet. You okay? I let out a slow breath. No. She nodded like she expected that. Want to talk about it? I shook my head. I didn't even know what to say. I was angry, but not just at Jack. I was angry at myself for not seeing it sooner, for letting him manipulate me, for trusting him at all. And under all that anger, buried deep, was something worse. Humiliation. I had spent so much time defending him, making excuses for him, when all along, I had been nothing more than a joke to him and Rachel. The messages were still burned into my brain. She's getting so clingy. I need space. She'd lose it if she knew. I'll figure something out. I clenched my fists. He had figured something out. He had planned to keep lying, keep stringing me along until he was ready to leave. He didn't even have the decency to come clean. He just waited to get caught. Sam stood up. Come on. I frowned. Where? She grabbed my jacket and tossed it at me. We're getting out of here. You need air. I didn't argue. Sitting here, stewing in my own thoughts, wasn't helping. I pulled on my jacket and followed her out the door. The night air was crisp, a stark contrast to the suffocating tension inside my apartment. We walked down the street in silence, past closed shops and dimly lit streetlights. I had no idea where we were going, and I didn't care. After a few minutes, Sam finally spoke. You know, I wanted to tell you sooner. I glanced at her. Why didn't you? She sighed, stuffing her hands into her pockets. Because I was scared. You and Jack, you were so in love. Or at least, you thought you were. I didn't want to be the one to rip that away from you. I swallowed hard. I get it. And I did. If the roles were reversed, would I have had the courage to tell her? Would she have even believed me? She kicked a rock down the pavement. I hated watching you blame yourself. The way he made you feel crazy for suspecting something. I wanted to shake you and say, you're not paranoid. You're right. I bit my lip, suddenly overwhelmed. I should have known. No, she said firmly. He should have been honest. He should have been better. I nodded, but the guilt still gnawed at me. Not just about Jack, about Rachel too. I had trusted her, confided in her, called her my friend. And the whole time, she was sleeping with my boyfriend. I stopped walking. I want to call her. Sam blinked. What? I want to hear her say it. Sam hesitated, then pulled out her phone and handed it to me. Your funeral. I took a deep breath and scrolled through her contacts until I found Rachel's number. My fingers hovered over the call button. Then I pressed it. It rang. Once. Twice. Then, hello. Her voice was sweet, almost hesitant, like she already knew why I was calling. I tightened my grip on the phone. Hey, Rachel. A long pause. Then cautiously, hey, what's up? I swallowed the lump in my throat. I know. Silence. Then a soft inhale. I don't lie. I cut her off. Not to me. Not now. She didn't speak for a moment. Then, barely above a whisper, I'm sorry. I closed my eyes, my chest tightening. I had been ready for denial, for excuses, for anger. But not this. Not guilt. Not regret. And for the first time since this nightmare started, I felt something unexpected. Doubt. I held the phone tightly. Rachel's barely whispered, "I'm sorry," still hanging in the air between us. The words should have meant something. Should have given me some kind of closure. But all they did was make me angrier. Sorry. That was it. That was all she had to say after months of lying to my face. After stealing the person I thought I'd spend my life with. After making me feel crazy. For even suspecting something was wrong. I let out a bitter laugh. "That's all you've got?" Rachel exhaled sharply on the other end. "I know it doesn't fix anything. I don't know what else to say." I clenched my jaw, my fingers tightening around the phone. How long? Another silence. Then, a year. A cold wave of nausea rolled through me. A year. While I was telling her about my fights with Jack, asking her for advice, crying on her shoulder, she was sleeping with him. A sharp, ugly laugh escaped me. "Wow, that's impressive. You must have really enjoyed hearing me complain about how distant he was, knowing exactly why." "Don't." She sounded pained, like she was the victim here. "I didn't want to hurt you." "Then why did you?" My voice cracked. "Why did you do this to me, Rachel?" "I don't know." I scoffed. "Bullshit." She took a deep breath, and when she spoke again, her voice was different, quieter. "Because I wanted him." I felt my stomach twist, but she kept going before I could speak. "I loved him. Or, I thought I did. It started as something stupid, flirting, crossing lines we shouldn't have. But then it got worse, and I kept telling myself we'd stop, that we had to stop, but we never did." She hesitated, and after a while, I stopped feeling guilty. Her words hit me like a slap. She stopped feeling guilty. I pressed a hand to my forehead, trying to keep my breathing steady. "And now? Do you feel guilty now?" "Yes." A pause. "But it's too late, isn't it?" I closed my eyes. "Yeah, it is." I didn't wait for her to respond. I just hung up. The second I did, my body felt empty. Like all the anger, all the pain had burned so hot and fast that there was nothing left but ash. I handed Sam's phone back, my hand strangely steady. "What did she say?" Sam asked cautiously. I let out a slow breath. That she wanted him. Sam flinched, like she hadn't expected me to say it so plainly. "That's it. That's it." For a long moment, we just stood there. The night air was cold against my skin, but I barely felt it. Then Sam nudged my arm. "Come on, let's go home." I hesitated. "I don't know where that is anymore." She looked at me for a long moment, then shrugged. "Well, let's figure it out." And somehow, that felt like the first real thing anyone had said to me all night.
Thank you very much for watching. Did you like this story? Like, subscribe, and write a comment about your opinion.